quick intro. Hi everybody, thank you for coming out. Paul Little with the Chamber here in Pasadena. We are hosting these events with the Small Business Development Center, which is housed here in this building on the other side at Pasadena City College. If you have any need for, as a small business or a small business person, for advice, help, counseling, any of those kind of things, the SBDC actually, that's what they're here for. A lot of their stuff is free or very low cost, so something to take advantage of. Thank you. John Liano is here. John is a Pasadena Chamber board member as of July. We're going to get you your official name tag at some point, but thank you for coming out. And I want to introduce John Rocca and Josh Rodriguez. John is Rocca Integrated Solutions. And he is going to catch us all up on all the changes that are coming to our using plastic, both as a consumer, I guess, but more importantly, what it means for businesses. So, John, thank you very much, and thank you for coming up.
Thank you very much, Paul. Thank you, the Chamber, and thank you for the Pasadena wonderful school here that provides so much for adults and people who want to change their lives. Don't recognize us, we attend a lot of the breakfasts, and hopefully after this you're going to have a lot of questions, and when you do, you can feel free to reach out to the Chamber and to Josh and myself. We are officed here in Pasadena. Josh is always out and about, and I'm a little bit more further west in Westlake Village, but often attend here. I am challenged, as most of us are, with many times trying to make a very complicated issue as easy as possible. That is never easy. So I know that there are going to be a lot of questions. I encourage you, as a matter of fact, I challenge each of you to try to follow up with the Chamber to get our numbers and to answer some of your particular questions. Let's start off with something simple. Years ago, back in the early 2000s, we had a piece of roll of paper that looked like this. I'm going to get out of the camera view for a moment, and I'm going to pass it around so you get a feeling for it. Lo and behold, back in the later, say around 2008, 2010, we had this wonderful roll. I'll hold it to you because it has gotten smaller. So lo and behold, now we have this size roll. So people say, why do the rolls get smaller, the machines get smaller? It's because the technology has gotten bigger. The ability for us to do things in the world of credit card processing, financial management, and above all, the financial world of moving money, which is what this is all about, is really kind of challenging. Here's an interesting quote. Approximately 27% of the world's credit card processing occurs in the United States and North America. That means Canada and Puerto Rico. Believe it or not, out of that 27%, 61% of the fraud in the world, occurs here in the United States. It's that dramatic. So do you wonder why we are the last ones to have made this change? A lot of us do. But I can tell you that between government, Visa, MasterCard, the banks, and we as individuals, there was always an issue of how long is it going to be before we move. It's really a question of cost and risk. Each one of these cards costs maybe about $4 or $5 to put that chip on it. And when you talk about millions and millions of these cards, it becomes a little bit more cost concern. And who's going to pay for it? Is it going to be the consumer, the bank, or Visa, MasterCard? What we're really talking about now is a liability shift. A liability shift means that the risk of who pays for a fraudulent transaction, who's going to pay for that? In the past, Visa, MasterCard has taken for it. Now, if you don't make the changes that are necessary to have this occur, you, the consumer or the merchant, become very responsible for it, because they refuse to take this risk anymore. Now, how does this risk happen? Well, let's take a look at a terminal. This here terminal is the old one and a lot of them are still in use today. This particular terminal, as you can see at the bottom here, has no ability to take a chip. It does have the ability to swipe. It is also fed by a phone line. Now, can this be in some degree fraudulently attacked? If someone breaks into a copper phone line, they can. There's also an issue on whether or not this particular transactions or this particular way of doing business has a solution to it. That solution to it basically is something that you have in most streets today, what they call fiber. Fiber moves real fast. From fiber, you have this dial-up line. This dial-up line kind of moves and try to get to this fiber, and it's sometimes difficult. When that telephone line is trying to get into that fiber and keeps hitting it, butting up against it till it gets in, that's when people have fun trying to get into it and be able to pick the information. And basically, they pick that information and it moves real fast. They test it. I don't need to tell you, for $10, $5, $2.22. Once they find the card is good, it is moved very quickly to large numbers. So that risk that goes on means that we, as a consumer, have to educate ourselves and also educate the place we do business with. There are some mom and pops that do not want to spend money on this particular new terminal. This new terminal is similar to that terminal. I don't need to mention a name because I'm not prophesizing which one is better and which one is not better. But as you can see here, it has the ability to put in a chip. And you also have the ability to make a swipe. I guess the big question is, how is all this going to happen? When is it going to happen? Why is it going to happen? Well, they put down a date as October the 1st, which today is is September 30th. So tomorrow, guess what? The whole world's going to stop. I don't think so. I think what is going to happen is that there'll be more and more pressure put on the individual merchants to go ahead and get this done. There are people that are now being forced to use their chip cards in major retail institutions like Target, like Marshall Fields, like Home Depot, places like that. And this is going to be a type of migration process. This migration process means that everybody is going to go ahead and get a chip card. And when they get that chip card, you're going to be able to give that to your merchant. The merchant is going to be able to assist you in using that chip card. The next migration part of this is that they're going to turn on that chip card. And that chip means that it will either take a 4-digit PIN number or it'll take a signature. Well, what bank is going to do what? We don't know. And they're not going to let us know that. I can assure you that not all of this is going to be turned on at one time. It is going to be turned on perhaps 1% with the Bank of America, 1% with a First Data, 1% with a Citibank. These are all U.S. Bank. These are all guesstimates. I don't think anybody knows the real answers. The important thing is that we as a consumer, we as a chamber member, and we as merchants take the time and the effort to learn about this. How do we learn about it? There are a lot of credit card processing people. There are a lot of YouTube videos. There are a lot of issues that people are encouraging, forcing, and have little or no patience on how to get this done because not a lot of people know about it yet. I'd like to offer my company and my services to say, yes, we have the patience. Yes, we're not going to sell you. Yes, we're here to help you. And that's what Chamber and Community is all about. And Josh and myself have made that commitment to the people in the Pasadena area and the other areas that we work in. So challenge us by your questions. It's a scary move. Let's talk about the kinds of businesses that are going to be affected. Everyone. let's talk about who's going to be affected the most. Restaurants. Because restaurants are going to be in a position where they are in Europe, where they have to physically take this particular terminal, as we call it, and leave it on your table while you finish your dinner, or you finish your dinner and put your tip in. And then they have to authorize that tip. So for those of you who are restaurateurs, understanding that, oh well, don't I do a tip adjust anymore, there will be no more tip adjusts. It will all take place here in the terminal. Now, it is true that most of these high-risk scenarios don't really take place in a restaurant, but they do more and more. And so what's good for one is good for all, according to the government. I want to make sure that you understand this is not a law. This is not a government mandate. But it is something you better pay attention to. Because what really is going to happen is when you get a fine, or when you perhaps get a situation where you've been fraudulently abused, you will have to pay for it. And when you pay for it, that number can be very serious. So in reality, what we want to do is make sure that we understand that there is that shift of liability. And when we have that shift of liability, we have the increase of perhaps risk in terms of we as individuals, both merchants and individual participants that go to the location, we are at risk for that. The world of credit card processing, it changes all the time. We are in a very dynamic environment right now. All of what I say may be true today and change tomorrow. The question is that we have the support of the chamber, we have the support of the members in that chamber that trust us, and we can find the answers. Because today, as experienced as I am, someone wanted to use a credit card and it didn't have a CVV code. Interesting problem. I've never heard of that, but you never know whether or not that's legal or not legal. I don't have an answer yet, but I will. I mean, there's an obvious answer there, but that difficulty provides us with. Well, if you were a merchant, I can assure you that this is going to take you more time. If you were a merchant, I'm sure you're going to have to train you and your employees on how to do this. If you're an individual, why in the world would you want to go spend money in a store or a retail establishment or restaurant that maybe does not have the right kind of terminal to protect your investment, which is your time and your money? I don't need to tell you when a purse is stolen, a credit card is stolen, a bank account is infringed upon, things of this nature. This causes a lot of problems. Personal time. So it really affects everybody. And we as a community of people, whether you're in Pasadena or in other locations, this really has an effect on us to enforce what we think what is good for one is good for all. So I urge you, again, challenge you, make sure you go to the establishments and merchants that you use and say, hey, listen, are you using the new chip card yet? Because I'd like to use it. Apple Pay is part of this. I'm not an expert in Apple Pay, but I can tell you that between that and Android Pay and a few of the others that are out there, it's pretty extraordinary. It does as little work as possible, and you tap it on it, and it deals with a system called NFC, which is near field technology, which is able to pick up that particular information from a card without you swiping it, but within the field of activation that goes on. So it's pretty exciting, and I can assure you the millennials love it. I can assure you that as time goes on, more and more of us will be forced into using it, and it does provide a pretty secure way of doing business and of capturing that information. Does it mean that we're going to change the way we use credit cards? I don't think so. I think everything that we do now we're going to continue to do, except we maybe have to know what the chip numbers are on the new credit cards that are coming up. and above all, we need to take the time to understand and learn what that change means for us, our children that we give credit cards to, and the possibilities of how all this is going to be used. It is fearful when you go into establishments that think they know how to use this equipment or think they know how to execute a transaction, and you now, by watching this video, maybe have a little bit more information, but you know and see that they're doing something wrong. Well, you kind of have a responsibility to talk about it and say, hey, listen, maybe you should kind of get this fixed or figure out how to do it. I'd rather not leave my card with you right now. It has become that dramatic and systemic within the system that this fraud just seems to have no end to it. And as a result, we all pay for this in the credit card rates. So don't think that we escape the elements of what happens. We are a credit card processor. We are a platform. And there's about 5 or 6 of them in the United States that have this, or that are responsible, that work directly with Visa and MasterCard. They're all good. They all try to be good. They all work to be good. But we all make mistakes. And so I ask each and every one of you, those of you that are merchants, to please give your merchants or your representatives a chance to explain and remedy the problems that they have, because they may not even know what they're doing yet. And if they don't in a certain period of time, then it's time for you as merchants it's your obligation to figure out a better way to do this. As far as the kinds of businesses that are going to use this, I've already told you that of course restaurant business is going to be most difficult. Retail business, for the change, they'll probably realize at least the less of a change because they're not dealing with tips. But let's talk about this wonderful thing called the internet. Well, that's where risk runs high. Most of the time, you're protected by what they call gateways. And there are places out there, whether they be PayPal or whether they be Square or whether the different kinds of momentums they use. Just make sure that you know the level of PCI DSS they have. That's PCI compliance. They should be of the highest. They should not be of the lowest. Because, you know, if you be in that business, make sure you have a solid gateway with good security. Make sure that you have all the items that are necessary in a website there. For example, a return policy. For example, the kinds of requirements that Visa and MasterCard have. Because there are insurance policies that you get if you deal with all of your PCI compliance that protects you against loss. But they won't protect you against loss if you don't do all the changes that are necessary for this. So make sure you check with your representative to make sure that they do have an insurance policy. Make sure that there's one available and all the requirements that are needed with regards to that. It's also good that you kind of keep in communication with your representative. Give them a call once in a while. See what they're doing. Make sure they come by, take care of your terminal, talk to you about changes in your business, the growth in your business, pricing that you may need to adjust to. This is a relationship. It's like almost any business. You want people to come back when you're selling them a product. What are you doing? You're really saying, hey, we thank you for your patronage. Please visit us again. In the same way, you need to develop that relationship with your team, whether it be your accountant, your marketing person, your credit card person, the chamber you work with. Develop these relationships. It really makes a difference in terms of the kind of success that you're going to have. I'm welcome to bring this to an end. I don't want to be too boring about what I do. However, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact the Pasadena Chamber. They know how to get in touch with myself and Josh Rodriguez. And we thank you for your time and listening to this. I hope I've shared some of the secrets. There are some handouts for the people that are attending today that they will get, and I'll be happy to take any questions in the future. Thank you for your time. Questions? Yes, sir.
I have a terminal that, when you use the debit card, then you have to punch in your code. That extra device has card reader. It's a chip reader actually, but not the device itself. Would that be sufficient to use the card for the card that it has chips?
I can tell you that probably not. If I understand your question, I want to repeat that for you. You're saying that you have a terminal that takes debit cards, and it says it has, or you feel it has a chip reader. Is that going to be
No,
acceptable?
it's two devices. One
He
is
has,
this
so,
one,
I understand the question. So the question is that the terminal itself, the big one, does not have an EMB reader on it.
correct.
The extension for the pin pad does have an EMB chip reader on it. Is that acceptable to use when the connecting doesn't have it?
Okay. Very interesting question. There is a pin pad that has a reader that is attached to this. That's a very expensive unit. Very. To counteract what you said, but not to counteract what your perhaps person who sold you this, these terminals have internal pin pads, so you don't need that.
But now that I do have it, and
Can you use it? Yes.
Mine, can I use it?
Yes. If you give me the model number of it, I'll confirm it with you, but I think it's a 280.
Yeah, it's mine. Whatever it is,
Yeah.
whatever the card.
Yes, you'll be able to use it. Very tricky on how to use it, because if you ever have updates or things or changes like that to your system, you have to keep your pin pad attached to your terminal when you have the update go on, so that both the pin pad and the terminal get updated. But yes, you can if it's the right one. I'm happy to check out that particular number for you. Any other questions? Oh, come on, we got some entrepreneurs out here in the world. Okay. No other questions? Again, thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, John.
You bet. Is this your kind of terminal that you have?
I think so. That's different number. It's not very common, but it's by...
Is it an Ingenico?
No, it's by the other famous one.
It should work. I assume that you're, for example, pharmacies. Pharmacies, because they deal with a lot of medicine and pricing and insurance, they don't want people to get their hands on this terminal because they can do things with it. So they get I got a long cord, a 9-foot cord, where they keep the terminal below here, and they put the charge or pin pad on top, so that it is different. It is a distance away, so there's not a problem with it. But if it's supposed to have a chip reader, it will have a chip reader, and it will be acceptable. Okay? Any other questions?